Hi guys, it's Kales and Diverseathon is next week. There has been a lot of discussion on BookTube lately about diversity and the necessity of it, and can I just say right off the bat, it's necessary. So in order to take action in light of these conversations to talk about how diversity in literature does matter, Joce at Squibbles Read, Monica at She Be Monica, Christina at Lolu Fangirl? I think it's Christina Marie. I'll link their channels. And then Whitney at Witty Novels have all created Diverseathon, which is this readathon that we're doing in September, from September 12th to September 16th. There's going to be discussions on Twitter, and I'll link a lot of that down below. But anyway, what I wanted to do for this video was I wanted to tell you the things I want to read during Diverseathon and recommend some things that you should read. So let me start with the books that I want to read during Diverseathon. The first one I have is The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I got this book a long time ago, and I was like one of those kids that did not have to read it in middle school, and I really want to, so Diverseathon I think is the perfect opportunity to do that. I think this book will challenge me. It deals with racial diversity with Junior, who's a budding comic artist who grew up on an Indian reservation and then ends up going to an all-white school. When We Collided by Emery Lord is one of the authors that I met at the Boldish tour, and this is her newest one, which deals with two characters, one of which has bipolar and the other one has depression, and they meet, and it's not necessarily a love story. And I think it's going to challenge me to examine different sides of mental illness and different types of it as well. The next book is Finding Audrey, which has a girl in it who has anxiety disorder. For me, I think this book is going to challenge me because as someone who also has anxiety disorder, I've been very, very scared to read this book, but I'm going to overcome that fear and try it. Next, I want to finish reading Lolita in Tehran, which is a nonfiction book about an Iranian woman who, Azar Nafisi, who I've read some of her other books, teaching English literature to women in a oppressed country, and I've been reading it for a while just because there's a lot of text on the page and it's kind of slow, but I love this idea and it's so interesting and so fascinating, so I'm gonna use Diverseathon as an excuse to finish this one. Then I'm gonna try and read The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, which is actually an Oprah book. This is an arc of it that I got, and while it is out already, it is about a young slave trying to escape in the Underground Railroad, but the Underground Railroad is actual literal railroad that like takes her different places and different worlds and things, and it's an Oprah book, and I think it's gonna challenge me by reading about the racism of the South, but also makes it a very interesting twist, interesting symbolic twist about the Underground Railroad. It's been getting rave reviews, so I'm really excited to try this one. Then I'm hoping to pick up To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I've had this book on my shelf for a while, and it is about a girl and her family and how she writes a bunch of letters to her ex-boyfriends, and then she accidentally gets the letters sent out. And she is Korean or American, but is not defined by her race. So I think it's going to be interesting and challenging for me to read about a protagonist from a different race, but in a story which she is not defined by it. So that's going to be very interesting and I think a different twist as well. I'm not going to finish all 6 in a week, but I'm going to give myself a wide array of choices of books to read, and anything else that I might pick up at the library is free game as well, but those are some ideas. Anyway, here are some recommendations for you guys if you don't know what to read on Diverseathon. We've also created a huge spreadsheet that I will link down below that a lot of people have recommended books on, and if you have any recommendations you can add to it as well, but here are a couple of mine. I have to throw in a play in there because I just have to, and I'm going to throw in August Wilson's Fences, which is one of my absolute favorite plays of his. It's just brilliant and so good. I read it in 10th grade and it like changed my life. It's about an African American family. It's set in the 1950s leading up into the liberation of the 1960s of African Americans, and it's about this man's pride and family and his relationship with his family. Oh my gosh, guys, it's brilliant. It won a Pulitzer. You need to read it. Can't get through this video without recommending Life of Pi, which is about a young boy from India whose family owns a zoo. The boat crashes as they're trying to move to Canada, and it's about him surviving with a Bengal tiger and a lifeboat, and it's brilliant and it's amazing and it's metafictional and it makes you think, and it, like I said, is about an Indian boy, but it also has diversity of religion, which I think is important and is not something that is necessarily touched on, because Pi is not only a young Indian boy, but he is also Hindu, Muslim, and Christian. try and figure out how that works, but he does make it work. And to me, that's why I would promote this book, more so than Pi being an Indian and that diversity. But I think him having a wide range of religions and his tolerance for religion is hugely important in this book. Then I have to tell you about this one, which is a collection of short stories by Danielle Evans called Before You Suffocate Your Own Fool Self, which is all about stories about people who are mixed race, or if they have a cross between cultures. This is the idea of being divided as an American between different cultures, but it's the idea about trying to find your own identity when you have mixed identity and mixed race specifically. And all the short stories are different, but some of them intertwine, and it's brilliant, and it's so good, guys. It's one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It actually started me on my obsession with collections of short stories, and it's that good. Plus, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, so if you want like a brand new one and you want to dive into short stories, this one is a good one. I would recommend it. Then I'm also going to recommend The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which this one was not my like all-time favorite book just because I didn't necessarily like the plot, but I'm recommending it because I love the voice. It is about a boy who's on the autism spectrum whose next door neighbor's dog dies, and he makes it his mission to go out and find out who has killed the dog. And why, like I said, I'm recommending this is diversity of voice, because it's told from a first-person narrative, and you get inside this boy's head, as neurodiverse as it may be. It's a good read, and it's worth it. Then I'm also going to recommend The Scar Boys by Len Vallejos, which I recently had him on my channel in book battles in July. And this book centers around a boy who has a physical deformity as he is struck by lightning as a kid. Well, the tree he's tied to is struck by lightning, and he gets a bunch of burn marks. And it's about him in the 80s starting a band with his friends, and him being defined by his disability in that way and trying to overcome it in his own way through music, which I really enjoyed that interesting perspective on it as well. I'm also going to recommend We Should Hang Out Sometime by Joce, who is a YouTuber actually, and when he was younger he had cancer and had to have his leg amputated, and this is his nonfiction personal story about how he's never really had a girlfriend, and yet he's dated girls, and so he goes back through all his previous relationships to figure out why doesn't he have a real girlfriend and what is, quote, wrong with him. It's very much about him coming to terms with his own disability, and it's very, very fascinating and also really hilarious. Here are some books that I think you should read for Diverseathon. I don't know why they're all red, which is kind of ironic, can I just say. Here are the books that I want you to read for Diverseathon, and none of them are diverse in their covers. That's funny and highly ironic. You should read these awesome books. I'm going to try and read my other awesome books. If you have any recommendations, link them down in the comments below. I would love it if you guys could participate in Diverseathon. I'll link all the information from all the channels down below. Until next time, guys. Bye. The next book is Finding Audrey by Sophie Castilla Kinsella. Let's say that right. And she finds love-ish